Do you give every job you feel like an equal amount of work towards it, especially in pre-production? Something I'm figuring out is like, is there like do certain jobs require a little bit less? Like they might not need all of the pre-production that I want to give, and some require
Yeah.
all of it. You know?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, every job has its own needs, and I think as time goes on, you become more and more kind of in tune with how
Mm,
much needs to go towards each job, and like so. For example, actually, I have two upcoming commercial jobs. So this is really the perfect circumstance to talk about this, and I don't say that just to
perfect.
brag or anything, but just using it as an example because one of them is like a fairly simple, straightforward, like run and gun style spot. One location.
Hmm.
Um, it's very nimble, small crew, quick on our feet. So the lighting approach is going to be very simplistic, and it's location based, and it's all like based on available light that we're just lightly augmenting and stuff like that.
Right.
So I already know those circumstances going into that job. So once I put in the initial work of like, all right, here's the crew, here's the equipment we need. I'll see you on the scout.
Mm,
There isn't really much else for me to do, honestly. Like, we're going to scout it. We're going to come up with our lighting plan for each space on the day based on the available light in the location that we're shooting in. And then I'll see you on the shoot day. It's
sure.
pretty straightforward. And I know when and where I need to put in the effort to,
Mm,
get what I need. Like, as of right now, I've done everything I can until we scout. There's no additional thought or mental space I need to
right.
put into this job because what is it going to help me?
Mm,
There's no decision I can make now until I see the location physically and we talk through it with the gaffer and the
mhm.
director and everything. So now I've checked off that mental checklist for that job and it's in the bin until the scout. The other job that I'm prepping is more complex. It's 3 days, it's on stage, it's set builds, it's production
Okay.
design. So that requires a heavier lift. So
Mm,
that one is now something I put more time into because as the set renders are coming in, I'm starting to think about lighting approach for each one. There's different scenes, there's different looks in the piece. So it's a little more complex. There's more moving parts, there's more components, and there's more, and therefore it requires a bit more of a heavy lift. So I give that one a little bit more time on the prep end because there is more thought that I can put into it
mm,
beforehand. Um, and the other simpler, more straightforward job is simpler and more straightforward.
right.
And I think it's each one on the shoot day will get the same amount of concentration and effort. And I think ultimately that's what matters and where what it comes
Absolutely.
down to. And I don't
Mm,
I don't even that's not even something I'm necessarily intentional about. It's just I can't help it. Like I even on the most like vanilla, I guess is a good term, job or
that
the
is a good
simplest
term.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I maybe this goes back to my kind of passion for the whole thing, but like I just can't help. I can't phone it in. I'm like
Mm,
incapable of phoning it in, which sounds like one of those silly questions on like an interview, like a resume interview when you interview for a job and
right.
they're like and they ask you like what's one flaw, what's
I
one
work too
like
hard.
personality flaw exactly, and you're like, ugh, I take my job too seriously and
Yeah.
I just can't phone it in. I have to give my 110% every time. But in this case, it does feel that way. Like it does feel
Mm,
like something that I can't help, which I think is a good thing. I mean, I certainly lean into that.
yeah.
And this is what I like. I'm sure any artist will relate to this. I like the satisfaction of doing a good job.
Yes.
Like there's a
Absolutely.
feeling, there's a feeling of satisfaction and like not relief, but wholeness, like completion. This
Right.
just like pride, and it's a mix of a bunch of different emotions.
I'm like
When
smiling because I know that feeling when you're driving home from set and you're like,
yeah,
today was a great day. Like you feel great.
even in the moment,
Yeah, right.
like this, and
Absolutely.
this is what I mean by like the most vanilla thing. Like even if it's like a corporate interview, you know, like low stakes, nobody's ever
Hmm.
going to see this, but you set it, you have a nice lighting setup in your head and you execute it and you do it and it looks great. In that moment, you look at the monitor and you're like, oh, that looks nice.
Right.
And that
I
makes me
love
feel
that.
good. Like that makes me
Mm,
feel whole and complete and satisfied. And I love that feeling. And I feel like most artists love that feeling. It's that feeling of satisfaction when you've done something, when you've
mm.
made something. And no matter the job, I just like that feeling. So I don't like the feeling of half-assing something or phoning something in. I just don't enjoy it. It feels incomplete. It doesn't feel satisfying, so I can't do it.
I love that.